Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So today I figured I would provide you guys with a video that I think is probably long overdue at this point, as a number of you have asked the same exact question over and over again throughout the last couple of years, really. And that is, what are some tips, tricks, and advice that you would offer to anybody trying to buy a new vehicle? What are the things that you do? What are the things that you consider as you're doing that? So yeah, I figured to walk you through that. And again, let me preface this video with, this is not going to be a one-size-fits-all. This is not the, this is not going to be a blanket approach for everybody. Every dealership is going to be different. Not to mention, we are all different as people. So, I mean, your delivery of this kind of stuff and your tact and your approach is going to be really the underlying factor for your success in getting what you want when it comes to purchasing a vehicle, right? So as I started writing down these things that I do, I couldn't help but just accidentally think that I'm kind of like demonizing dealerships, right? In-car salesmen at large. I think salesmen, they definitely have a bad rep, as we all heard, have seen before, the greasy hair, slick back, do anything it takes to get your money kind of thing. So, I mean, they are often kind of demonized as it is. And I don't want that to be the case for this video here, because, I mean, car salesmen, they're just like you and me. They're trying to make a living and they're doing their jobs, right? And more often than not, I mean, they want to serve you. They want to do good for you. But at the same time, part of their job is to sell you a vehicle. They're selling you something. So, if they could do that and do that better, and while, getting the best coin for the vehicles that they're selling, I mean, that is a matter of their performance, right? So, I mean, they're kind of racked and stacked against each other a little bit when it comes to the number of sales, the volume of sales, blah, 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 blah. So kind of keep that in mind. And I definitely don't want you guys to think that I'm bashing dealerships as I go through this list here, okay? And my tactics with it. So we'll start from the top, and perhaps this is, I think, the most important piece of advice that I can give you guys. Some of you may be a little iffy when you hear it, but this is it. So what I end up doing every time I reach out to try to buy a vehicle, like, hey, I knew for a fact, I'm going to use the Land Cruiser here because it's right in front of me. I knew for a fact I want to buy a Land Cruiser Heritage Edition. So my first step was to do a nationwide search for a Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, find the best deal that I found online. And in my case, it was out of a dealership out of Kansas City, right? If you guys recall me doing this. So I found the best deal online. Keep in mind, though, when you do searches online, you see a lot of like lower prices. Then when you end up calling the dealership, that's not always the case. That's not always exactly what's being reflected online. Sometimes you can leverage that, but other times they're like, no, sorry, I'm not sure how that happened. It's an accident, blah, blah, blah. But what I ended up doing, I found that one in Kansas City, and I worked a deal as if, no kidding, I was going to go buy that one. As you guys know, I really did consider it. I mean, if it came down to it, I was probably going to make the trip out there to actually pick it up and bring it home, kind of thing. But what you need to do is you reach out to a dealership and get the best deal in writing first. Oftentimes, the dealership is going to say, "Hey, no, we need you to come on in," especially if you have a trade, right? They're going to want to see you in person, which makes total sense. But when you're dealing with the vehicles that I was dealing with at the time, I was trading in a 2020 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, okay, in Army Green, so 2020 with low miles on it. So I knew it wasn't going to be, you can have a little bit more confidence, and you can expect the dealership that you're trading a vehicle into to kind of acknowledge that fact. I'm like, okay, well, it's a new-ish vehicle, and you can send them a number of photos. You can all have that stuff hip pocket, so they can have peace of mind giving you the best trade value. So I always ask them to give me, the best trade value, expecting it to be, excellent condition. So like, hey, say, no kidding, give me your top dollar when it comes to, assuming that my trade does in fact live up to your expectations of being excellent condition. And be honest with them too. If your vehicle's has cracked windshield and it's janky in places, you need to be honest with them. But in my cases, I've always didn't have to bend the truth at all, because the vehicles I had have always been in really good condition, perfect. As you guys know, I'm pretty OCD with them. So get that value from them, and you can even tell them, hey, if for some reason there's something about the vehicle that you don't like upon my arrival there, I'm totally willing and able to forfeit your offer, if you will. You're willing to retract. I won't hold you to it, and and give them that peace of mind too. So what you're getting is the best possible deal written up. So you want them to send that over to you and actually do that, the buyer's invoice, the deal purchase agreement, send it over to you so you have it in writing. And at that point, you now have a very valuable resource, a tool at your disposal that you can leverage with the dealership that you want to do business with. And in my case, there was one, a Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, just maybe an hour away from me out in Laramie, out there in Wyoming, right? I then used that invoice, that agreement, written up agreement that I had with Kansas City, and I reached out one more time to that dealership in Laramie and said, hey guys, I just want to reach out one more time. I know you guys said no before, but this is what I'm working with. I'm going to be making the trip over to Kansas City to buy this one. However, I would much, much, much rather work with you guys. You're in my backyard. It'd make it a lot more convenient for me if I could just do business with you. I'd much rather keep it within Wyoming, blah, 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 right? So you give them that, and oftentimes, so here's the key though, you want to ask them to beat it. Say, hey, here's the offer on the table for me, and I'll be pursuing this unless you guys are willing to beat it. Sometimes they'll say, no, sorry, can't do that, pound sand and rock and roll. But I would argue, I would argue maybe like 50% of the time they're willing to at least match it. So beating it is a different story, but I think they're willing to match it for you. So that is my piece of advice for you. I don't think, and I don't know if that's going to actually work out here in Washington, because, well, Washington is like a microcosm, like an economic bubble, if you will, when it comes to vehicles, and just, there's a lot more money out here, especially in the Seattle area. So people are a little quicker to swoop things up and be silly and pay ADMs, additional dealer markups. They're a little bit more willing to do that out here, which is a shame. So your buying power kind of fades away a little bit in places like Seattle, where I'm at. But I still encourage you to definitely try that out. Again, purposely find a different dealership with the same exact vehicle and try to get those numbers in writing to leverage. So that's the biggest piece of advice. It kind of as a sub note on that one, you can do another thing. And this one's a little, I don't know. I mean, I'll let you guys be the judge. I mean, this can, I don't know, I've only seen this work maybe once or twice, but try to get the best possible trade value for your vehicle from one dealership. So purposely get that trade value number on your vehicle that you're trading in to be really high, even if it means paying, quote unquote, top dollar for the vehicle that you're trading in for. So on paper, for instance, we'll pretend we're working with these two here. So if I'm trying to trade in the Tacoma for a Land Cruiser, I'll call that dealership out of state, the one that has, a good deal. I'll try to get the best possible trade value on the Tacoma and get it in writing. Okay, so for instance, on this one, maybe I talked him into putting a $50,000 trade value, which is super high, of course, a $50,000 trade value on the Tacoma, but that means paying full up MSRP for the Land Cruiser. Okay, so that's what they send me in writing, 50 grand for the trade value, but they're not reducing the price of the Land Cruiser. Okay, so now I have that in writing. So now, when you go to a different dealership, you can say, hey, well, this dealership was willing to give me $50,000 for this, for my trade value. Are you willing to maybe work on the trade and bump that up? Oftentimes, I mean, they're smart. They'll look right through it. They'll be, okay, well, how much were they going to sell you that vehicle for? And when you tell them, well, MSRP, so they read right through it. But it does give you additional fodder, is what I'm giving you. And same goes for, vice versa. Call around and try to get the reversal, if you will, right? So even if it means getting $40,000 for the trade value, but you manage to talk them down on the vehicle that you're getting, like the Land Cruiser, you manage to talk them down $10,000. So now you can leverage that price tag, the sale price of the vehicle that you're getting. So it kind of gives you two different smaller tools at your disposal, if that makes sense. Again, that one's not as effective. Really, bottom line, you want to try to just get the best deal possible, both trade value and sale price in writing that you can leverage, because that's what's going to be beneficial, really. Any dealership that's smart enough is going to be looking for those numbers when you go into them. All right, so we're going to move to number 2, and these other items are a lot faster than that one. That first one I think is just really important to focus on. So the second one is leverage the student military discounts, first responder discount initiatives that they have. So most most manufacturers, Toyota being one of them, they offer like a student discount or recent college grad discount or military discount, first responder, blah, 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 blah. List goes on. Leverage those, right? But the trick is to leverage them after you come to your agreement or come to your final numbers. So I'll say agreement loosely, not after you sign. Once you sign, you're locked in. But once you come to your final numbers, then ask about the initiatives that they have. Say, hey, okay, well, I think I want to rock and roll, but don't you guys have a like a military discount or military incentive if I finance through you guys or whatever it is? Sometimes if you just finance with them, they drop it $1,000. So that's when you want to start asking about that kind of stuff. Dealerships will often try to get that out of you right from the beginning, because then that gives them the power to give you the low numbers. So I would advise you to try to leave those off the table until you get to the numbers that you already want to hear, and then as you're talking with the sales manager, then bring them up. Say, hey, I'm in the military, don't you guys do an incentive or blah blah blah, whatever it is. Hey, I'm a recent grad, don't you guys do a little thing for that? And 9 times out of 10 they will honor it. So that's pretty cool. All right, so number 3, what do I have here? So I said get the trade value first on a more expensive car. So what do I mean by that? In this one, you can argue the ethical nature of this one perhaps, but sometimes it can be in your benefit to call a dealership that you know that you want to buy. Let's say you want to try to buy a Tundra. You're trying to buy a Tundra. It can be beneficial for you to call them and say, hey, I'm interested in a Land Cruiser. What's the best trade value, or what kind of deal can we work out if I were to trade in my Tacoma for that Land Cruiser? So 9 times out of 10, they're going to be a lot more willing to give you an awesome trade value for your Tacoma if you're trying to get a vehicle that's $40,000, $50,000 more than what you're trading in. So they're going to give you top dollar for your trade value, right? So when they give you that trade value, you can kind of keep that hip pocket, keep that offer hip pocket and kind of fall off the map for a few days. And then you can call them back up and say, hey, after a little bit of soul searching or whatever you want to say to them, I think I want to try to get a Tundra. Do you think we can make a deal work? Then now they're in a position where they already gave you an awesome trade value for your vehicle that you're trading in. You can now leverage that. They're kind of in a little bit more of a pickle, and they're more likely to honor that value that they already given you, that they would have given you if you had gotten the Land Cruiser, if that makes sense. Sorry guys, I know I'm kind of throwing a lot and spitting a lot at you right now, but all right, number 4, never pay, and I mean this, don't pay the dock fees. That, I think, is, as well as the paint protection package fees, if you will. I think both of those are opportunities just for the dealership to milk you out of a few more dollars. And that's my opinion. Obviously, there is some sort of like amount that they need to pay their clerk and all their folks who actually do the paperwork. But I do think like having a way to prove that is, why do some dealerships have a $500 to $700 dock fee than other dealerships have a $100 dock fee, right? So it's just an opportunity for the dealership to set a standard amount, something that quote unquote you can't argue, everybody pays it. So they say it gives them that additional amount to make to help pay their employees. So I encourage you to never pay that and kind of be firm with that because it is not needed. 9 times out of 10, more than that, it's not needed. Now, if it's a low dock fee, it means it's worth eating sometimes. If it means, sustaining the deal without bad blood, it's worth doing it perhaps. But like when they're like $700, I wouldn't even entertain it personally. Okay, same goes with the paint protection plan. So they put a $50 worth of product and work into your vehicle's paint as a protection, and they tack on a $500 charge. So don't let them, do that stuff to you. So always opt out of the whole paint protection bit. All right, moving on, number 5. So this one I think is really important too. I would recommend to never go to the actual dealership until you got the numbers that you want to see worked out. Granted, always expect things to be, everything's possible to change when you actually get there. Of course, if they look at your vehicle and they decide, it has a few more dents and dings than you explained, I don't want to make a deal happen. There's always that possibility, but always go into a dealership, the physical dealership, once you already have the deal lined up. Don't go in there and sit down, because that's when they have you. That is when you've already lost. And I said that because, obviously you can get up and walk away, but you're now putting faces to it. So now it's in our human nature. Once we're kind of putting faces to things, they're going to be very nice to you. You're going to be more likely to say yes and fold when it comes, even if it isn't like the greatest deal. You're there and hey, I'm already here. I'm already wasted 2 hours. Let's commit to it. Let's make this a worthwhile experience. Blah, 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 blah. So it's in our nature, something psychological about all of us. We tend to do that. So do not go to the dealership. Don't let them work you. Oh, let me go talk to my manager. Let me go ask the manager. Go back and forth with it. It becomes a little bit of a gauntlet, a marathon game, if you will. So don't give them that opportunity to do that. Is what I would recommend. And I never do. And I've always been pretty pleased with the deals I've worked out. All right. Next one. Number 6. Never entertain a dealer that does markups. So let me rephrase that. So a lot of dealers will still put the markups on them, like the Tier D pros, right? They tend to put a $5,000 or $10,000 markup on them. You can still entertain them. You can still go to that dealership, but don't let them even leverage that price tag from the beginning. If they're not willing to make the MSRP the starting point for your negotiations or discussion, that's when I would say, turn off that deal. And don't look back. That's my advice. Don't allow dealerships to continue to milk people just because they can. The way I say it is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that's my personal opinion. But all it takes is people paying that markup is what ruins it for the rest of us. I get it. When it comes to business, it's supply and demand. I get it. But I personally think if we collectively stop paying it, they'll stop doing it. So moving on, number 7. So don't get attached. So just keep in mind that when you're going into this, and hopefully picked up by now, you need to know that you're driving a conversation. You need to know that you're in control of it. The second that you call up and the dealership, the salesman gets the inkling that you're not really positive about what you want exactly, you're kind of a little bit all over the place, blah, blah, blah. That's when they know that they can maybe take the reins and kind of drive the conversation and tell you what you want and what you need, blah, blah, blah. So just kind of be leery of that as you go into the conversation, and just don't get too attached. They're vehicles, they're cool, they're awesome, they're beautiful in person, but just know that there's another one of these at a different dealership, right? So the one that you're looking at right there is not worth getting attached to, even if you test drove it and blah, 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 blah. So keep that in mind. And the final thing I'll mention, this is kind of a universal piece of advice that I'm sure a lot of you guys know and have heard before, but it does do a little bit of benefit to try to work with the dealership at the end of the month. Okay, so end of the month is when they're trying to make their numbers happen. They're trying to make the sales and move inventory and sell volume, right? So there is value in waiting till the end of the month, the last 5 days of the month, to actually reach out to them and try to make offers and a deal happen. And when it comes to the actual timeline for a year, again, perhaps a no-brainer, but you want to reach out to a dealership between August and December when you're trying to buy that year of a vehicle for the best possible deal, right? So if you're trying to buy a 2020 Tundra Tier D Pro, reaching out to them between August and December of 2020, when it's already end of the year and it's already becoming almost a year old, is when you can get the most movement on the price. And again, that's kind of a no-brainer. But there you have it, guys. Those are some things that I consider and some things that I do when I'm trying to buy a new vehicle. So I hope this is beneficial to some of you. If not, let me know below in the comments, or otherwise, I appreciate you watching. Until next time.